Listen, today I have a little area called digital transformation that I'm going to talk to you about in our position in Dell Technologies, but also I think something that will resonate with all of you. Over the course of the next few minutes, we're going to talk about a study that we undertook called Realizing 2030. We're going to talk about embracing what does this digital transformation mean, and also really how the digital transformation is impacting particular areas. We'll give a couple of examples, and we'll close with a customer example, which is always quite fun to see. But before I get started, I'd like to ask maybe the audience a couple of questions. The first one, maybe just through a raise of hands. The second one, maybe I'll apply a little pressure on someone. But how many of you, through the raise of your hands, on average, on a daily basis, use 2 or more smart devices? PCs, cell phone, tablets? Yeah, about 100% of you. That's not surprising when you hear that actually last year the number of smart devices surpassed the worldwide human population of 7.2 billion and growing. I must say myself, I carry an average of 4. I don't know if that's smart or just plain stupidity, and I'm going to have to figure out how to reduce that. But it is pretty spectacular. Now, the next question, maybe I'll ask someone to raise their hand, and I might ask them a question. Anyone in here own a Tesla? That's a joke? We wish. Over here, we got someone raise their hand. You own a Tesla? Okay. Is that Tesla in any way connected to the internet or connected to other applications? And how do you use it? Where your car is? Exactly. So the number of connections to the automobile and the whole thought of a car that drives by itself. It's no doubt that the number of devices, including in our cars, is exploding. In fact, by the year 2020, some estimates say there'll be over 30 billion connected devices. And when I mean this, it's not just smartphones and tablets and PCs. It's also sensors, gateways, CPE products, other types of devices. And the expectation out to 2025 is actually in excess of 75 billion connected devices. Intel actually believes it's going to be even more than that. It doesn't take a scientist to figure out why Intel would want it to be more than that, because obviously they're going to participate in that in a great way. So there's no doubt that there's a humongous explosion of these connected devices, and these devices are connecting and collecting some sort of data. Data that can be useful in businesses, data that can be useful in our personal lives, data that we can use in a different way. There is no doubt that this digital transformation is changing and impacting the way that we live every minute, every hour, every day, every week. And we believe so much in this in Dell Technologies that we undertook a study called Realizing 2030. And in this particular study, we used a firm called Banson Bourne, a research firm that actually asked about 4,000 companies globally, small, medium, and large, in 16 different countries, what did they believe the potential implications of a digital transformation or the changes in technology meant to them? The first finding is about 45% believe there's a possibility that their business will become obsolete. Wow. Almost half of the companies surveyed thought that they would be out of business in the next 3 to 5 years. How many people believe this? Well, let's think of the impact of Netflix on video. And does anyone remember, what was it called? Gee, I can't even remember it. Blockbuster Video. Gone. 48% do not know what the industry is going to look like in 3 years. Think of the auto transportation that we just talked about. Think about Ford introducing the Model T, the F-150, and now thinking about driving a car, having a car that drives by itself. Healthcare industry continuing to transform, electronic medical records, remote healthcare, things that are happening very rapidly. And 52% have experienced significant disruption in their industries over the last 3 years. Again, think of the Blockbuster and Netflix impact. It's kind of interesting to see Amazon that overtook bookstores and took away that brick and mortar, but what's happening now? They're actually opening bookstores again. The one in Santana Row, I can tell you, has a line going out of it on the weekends. This industry is changing constantly and is being shaped in different ways. What's some other things that we found in this survey? Well, one is that the disruption is inevitable. It's happening very, very quickly. The second thing is emerging technologies is continuing to evolve. If we think back 10 years ago and you go back to that question of the 2 or 3 devices, many of us probably didn't have those 2 or 3 devices. I can remember when I started my career, I had a landline phone and maybe a PC at my desk, but that was about it. I didn't take work home with me. Things are evolving very, very quickly, and they're going to continue to be disrupted at even a faster pace. This is giving the rise also of what we call ultimate human machine learning. I'd like to spend a minute on what we mean by that. As we talk about all these connected devices and these devices collecting data that we can use, the humans will be interacting with that data. Work processes and decisions will become more fluent and adaptive, allowing for these processes and decisions to be changed on the fly. And in fact, what used to be completely difficult to change or a decision to be had, we can actually reimagine in a much faster way. If we think about this human and machine learning, think about it the fact of what we call the digital conductor. If we think of a large musical conductor, you can understand that every single one of those musicians probably memorized the notes of that particular music, but are they looking at the notes? No, they're looking at the conductor. Why? Because it's not about understanding, it's not about the note themselves, but how the note is struck. This is what we mean by machine human learning. And 2030 technology will be ingrained in everything we do, as I stated before. The way we work, the way we live, every minute, every hour, every day. Just think about the impact of those connected devices that you have today. So do you embrace or do you walk away? When we look at some of the emerging technologies underpinning some of this change, these are some of the things that came up during our survey. We talked already about artificial intelligence and machine learning, all the connections, all of the data. By the way, just to give you a little hint, people thought that Michael Dell was crazy to spend $60+ billion on this company called EMC. All of that data needs to be stored someplace. And now we are the largest storage company in the world by far, and we are moving that technology at a very rapid pace. Robotics. Think about the old factories versus the new factories. The robotics and how they improve quality, they improve processing, they increase time, they increase productivity. Virtual reality and augmented reality. This is one that's still a little bit beyond me. Until recently, I heard about a little project called BraveMind that's being done by USC Institute of Creative Technology, which is actually using virtual reality to help soldiers that are returning from Afghanistan and Iraq with post-traumatic stress syndrome. Please look it up, BraveMind at USC. They're using virtual reality to help our soldiers. It's pretty cool. Cloud. This is obvious. We had a brief discussion on the panel that's about to come up here. We met earlier this morning, and everything's moving to the cloud. We have a different opinion of that, but certainly all the services, the applications, the access, even on your mobile devices, how much is backed up to the cloud. We in Dell Technologies don't believe cloud is a place. We believe it's a practice or a process and how you run your infrastructure and your applications. It's inevitable. We think it's going to be a hybrid. It's not all going to be public, but obviously that continues to have a tremendous impact. We talked a little bit about IoT, the Internet of Things. I actually think that this has been going on for some time. I was actually involved in my previous company in the Connected Highway in the UK. It's one of the largest connected highways in the world with the number of video cameras and so forth. But I was recently in a discussion with Microsoft about the Azure Stack. And they actually said that actually 15% of their current Azure Stack sales relate to the connection of the Internet of Things, and they used the New York Police Department as an example. The New York Police Department is now giving their policemen the video cameras that's on their chest so that they can watch particular traffic stops, activities, and so forth. That video streaming obviously has to go back and be processed and computed and stored, and Azure Stack has made a big impact there. But we think about connected cities, travel, highways, connected appliances, all of this explosion of connected devices. So the question is do you embrace this change or do you fight it? And we believe that if companies embrace this change, they can actually see tremendous differentiation, competitive advantage. In fact, in a study by Accenture, 60% of the global manufacturing will see artificial intelligence enter into their environment over the next several years, which will increase productivity by 15%. Tremendous opportunity to embrace the change, to embrace the digital transformation, create competitive advantage, make our employees, our teams, our partners, and our customers much more productive. Why does it matter today? Well, in Dell Technologies, we believe that there are 4 pillars to this transformation. The first is obviously recognizing that this digital transformation is occurring. What is the impact to our services? What is the impact to our applications? Do we need to move our traditional applications to cloud-ready and cloud-native applications? This is completely important, and obviously assets such as Pivotal Cloud Family and Pivotal in itself helps companies such as GE and others change their traditional applications to more cloud-ready types of applications. The second is around the IT transformation. What do we mean by the IT transformation? I'll give a very specific example in a moment, but in essence, what is the infrastructure that we're running these applications on? Are they an old, outdated, proprietary infrastructure? Or are they compute-focused, disaggregated, commodity-based infrastructure that can run both traditional applications, but also help you run cloud-ready applications and help companies shift costs from the traditional to moving more to the future-ready type of services and applications that they need to run. Obviously, there's the workforce transformation. We just talked about all of you having, at a minimum, 2 devices. Jeff Clark, my boss, who runs all of business operations and product operations within Dell EMC today, often says there's no longer an office to the traditional employee. The employee wants to be connected all the time on the device that he or she wants. The barriers or the office type of space is no longer the same. And the number of devices that they use and the type of devices and how you monitor them, how you keep track of them is very important. And then obviously that enters into the security transformation. With more devices, with more sensors, with more connectivity at the edge, with the remote workers, with these PCs, with these cell phones, all these things, the usual wall of security that has been inside of the data center no longer exists. And so companies need to look at cybersecurity, embedded security, all of the various capabilities in which they can be attacked, because data is no longer protected inside of the 4 walls, and that's not how you want to operate. You want data in the hands of those people that can make decisions, as I said, on the fly for the right decision and allow that machine learning to take place. Maybe to dig a little bit deeper, let's look at the data center before and what we think it is in the future. First and foremost, the data center needs to be completely software-defined everything. More virtualization, more software-defined storage, more software-defined networking. I'm sure the panel in a few minutes are going to talk more about this. I know I have a lot to say. Think of it as a platform rather than a set of boxes. Companies need to move away from saying, I have a server team, I have a storage team, I have a networking team. They need to go to a DevOps environment in which they have a platform in which they can enable new services and applications. And that automation and that configuration needs to be consistent so that companies can take advantage of consistent tools, which gives them tremendous OpEx savings. Again, turning that savings focused on services, applications, and the digital transformation. We believe that this allows companies to have more innovation and more speed and the capability to execute what's best to create differentiated advantage. The second thing is the data center is no longer that big building that sits in your corporate headquarters. The data center is moving to the edge, and in fact, it's no longer the data center, it's the center of data. And we in Dell EMC and Dell Technologies believe that more and more, the applications and the business is going to be pushed out to the edge. If you use an example of an oil processing out in the ocean, what do you call this? I'm having a brain freeze all of a sudden. But basically, there's an average of 30,000 connected devices. Now, on some of those connected devices and the information that's being connected, it's okay to have that information go back to the data center for processing, maybe about the level of fuel that's pumping, et cetera. But what happens if you have a particular pump that's not working thoroughly and changes your productivity or capability or efficiency by 50%? Do you want data going all the way back to the main office? Or do you want the capability to understand that data locally on that particular bridge point to make the decisions, to make the corrective actions so that you bring that efficiency back up right away? We believe that the data center isn't just about the cloud. Yes, a lot of it will be run over the cloud, but we've seen tremendous growth in convergence, hyperconvergence, modular data centers to adopt to this change of how the data center is going to evolve. Maybe quickly looking at a little bit about what we think is happening in the networking, and I'm very proud of what we've done in Dell EMC, first of all, around disaggregation. Traditional networking in the digital transformation will not work. Proprietary protocols, proprietary hardware isn't going to allow companies the agility, the flexibility, and the capability that they need in order to operate and take advantage of this digital transformation. Disaggregation is for sure. Every RFP that we receive today from service providers and telcos mandate disaggregation. We were the first to do it in the industry 4 years ago, and it's quite interesting to see Cisco, Juniper, and Arista all in the last year announcing disaggregation. The second thing is the disaggregation of the protocols and the network operating software itself. Why is it that you have 1,100 protocols that you pay for in your data center when on average you use somewhere between 10 and 15 of those protocols? Disaggregate the stack. The last is the drive of open source. And again, our contributions to the Open Compute Project, our contributions to the Linux Foundation around the OPX and the capability to allow companies to build their own open source network operating software, giving them more flexibility and capability than ever before. This whole world of software-defined X and software-defined networking, whether it's in the data center, the campus, or software-defined WAN, is growing at an exponential rate over the next 3 or 5 years, and is probably the most profitable area for the networking business. And lastly, it's not dominated by anyone, because in fact, there are many players that are going after this new space that don't have that traditional proprietary space to protect those large gross margins. Very transformative time in the networking industry. We're going to hear more about this in a panel in a few minutes. Technology transformation is live and work and ever increasing. Hopefully I've come across that point. You got to shift from the status quo. Remember, almost 50% of the companies believe that in 3 years they'll be obsolete. Maybe to just show this a little bit more, I'd like to share with you one of our customer videos.
Who would have thought you could grow a plant in a warehouse instead of a field? Without sun, without soil. We're doing it, and we're not only doing it on an experimental level, we're doing it on a commercial level. Today we focus on leafy greens. We believe we could grow anything. Our vision is to build farms in cities all over the world to allow everyone to have access to fresh, great tasting, healthy food all year round. The fact that we could grow plants using 95% less water, 0 pesticides, as much as 390 times the productivity per square foot as a field farmer shows what technology can do. We're able to understand the plants better than anyone ever in the history of farming, and it's by the data. And this is why the relationship with Dell Technologies is so valuable. We are collecting all of these data points of what we're giving the plant. What spectrum of light, what nutrients, how do we improve quality, taste, texture? We're using data analytics and becoming better farmers. At the end of the day, it's about how do we deliver a better product to the customer.
This is AeroFarm's baby kale. This is going to be packed the flavor of kale. The watercress had those peppery notes. The bok choy is super juicy. This is what I love about AeroFarms, is that it's like technology that's allowing people to farm better and smarter, and it makes really delicious food.
The world needs a new paradigm of how we're going to feed this planet. AeroFarms is illustrative of what technology can do to provide more with less.
%95 less water, 390% improvement in productivity. Tastes good. It's about how we feed the world over the next several years. Embrace the technology and the digital transformation, or as approximately 50% of the companies say, go obsolete. Thanks very much. Appreciate it.